I am here today in my studio and I'm going to be painting today a magnolia, part of a magnolia tree. It's a painting I've already started and I'm just going to be finishing it off. So I hope to show you some of the stages that I'm painting. Okay, it's all in oil. This particular painting is oil on paper. Okay, so I'll get on with it. Okay. This is my setup with my copy and my palette. So I've started painting. I've gone into QuickTime here, just so it slows the video, but it keeps the video at 8 minutes. We're looking at how I'm adding light areas, dark areas. I started with the burnt sienna and I drew it out, and now I'm just plotting where the darks and the lights go. I've made a pink out of alizarin crimson with white, and this is all I'm using at the moment, just alizarin crimson with white. I've also painted in the stems, making a grey with ultramarine blue, burnt umber and white. There's quite a lot of white in this picture, and I've painted the flower first because I'm working in oil, and I don't want, if I started my background first, then it would be too wet and I would start smudging the image when I wanted to paint the flower. So starting with the flower first in this instance, and I'm working on acrylic paper, which isn't the best, but the paper's quite a good make, and it can withhold the oils. If you want to use paper for oil painting, I would recommend Arch's oil paper, which is amazing, and it will let the oil move around the paper a lot better than this acrylic paper is doing at the moment. So now I've painted, just blocked in my flower and my stems with a rough guesstimate of light and shade. And now I'm just filling in the background. This magnolia is on a pink background, which is quite difficult really, considering the tonal values. But you know, it's worth a go. It's worth trying the same background as your subject to see how you get on. If I carried on painting the flower without painting the background, then I would get the tones of the flower wrong. With tones, that means the light, the mid-tone and the dark. So if you put your background on before finishing your tones within the picture, then you've got a better idea of where to go light, where to go dark, and where to stay mid-tone. So obviously the darkest part of the flower here is the deep crimson. That alizarin crimson I've mixed in with a little bit of burnt sienna just to warm it up a bit, and also burnt umber and ultramarine just to darken it. And then to lighten the alizarin crimson, I've just used white in that mixture. With the background here, you can see it's starting to go a bit of a coral colour. I've added a little bit of yellow ochre to my mix there, just to make it a little bit different, because it's all starting to look very pink. And this is a painting, remember. I have got a reference image, as you've seen, but it's a painting, so the image is a reference. It's not something I'm copying. I'm making this painting my own, so I want to add a bit of a more difference into the background than what the reference image has. So I'm also adding darker elements on the right there with some ultramarine blue into the alizarin crimson, which makes a purple. And adding white again, which the white desaturates the colour, which makes a grey. So whatever colour you mix, if you add white to it, you get the grey version of that, which is really good for shadows within an object. So I'm trying to make a darker shadow on the right hand side there by adding the blue. On the left hand side, I've just used more of the alizarin crimson and white, so I've got a lighter. It goes from light to dark across background. So I'm starting now to look at the flowers and refining them a little bit more, looking at the darker parts, and this is where it'll start to pop now. So I've mixed my ultramarine blue with burnt umber and made a really like a dark, ultramarine blue and burnt umber make black. So this is like a grey black, so it's probably got a bit more brown in it than blue. And then to make a grey, to lighten that, where the lighter parts of the stem is, I've just added white to that mix. It's quite important here actually to actually look at what I'm doing here, where I'm adding the grey into the shadow of the petals. Because when we look at the magnolia, we tend to just see pink and white, but obviously it has got its own shadows, and to put the grey from the stem into the painting keeps everything fitting together. So I'm not adding any other colours, I'm just working with those colours. It's quite a limited palette, but also I want that limited palette because I want it to look as if they all complement each other, and there isn't a strange colour anywhere that leads your eye anywhere else. I've just used the knife there just to take off where the oil paint was building up. So you can scratch into this, especially if you're on canvas, you can scratch into and take things off, or you can even use a palette knife to take the oil off and paint again, or I'll use Zest It with my oils. I'll put a list on the video at the bottom of the materials I used within this video, so you can see what I've used, everything I've used. I also like to use Rosemary & Co brushes or Artmaster brushes, and I tend to use flat brushes. Or here I think I've got a filbert, from Rosemary & Co in this video here. I work from big to small, so this brush here is quite a big one. It's quite good for petals because the filbert's got a pointed, it's a flat brush with a pointy top, so it's really good for drawing the petal shapes in. And I'm just going around, just looking, re-estimating my painting, and just looking at, now I've got the background on, I've blocked in the colour, I'm just tidying it up, looking at how I can just change the shape a little bit. I've also let this part of the painting has dried overnight, so I've let the oil settle overnight, and also on paper, which is the advantage on paper if you want your painting to dry quickly, is to paint on paper because it will absorb it quicker than canvas. So I've got up this morning to carry on painting this, and the background has been quite dry, so that's been to my advantage. So this allows me to then look at the proper shapes, how I want to just tweak things, add more darks, add lighter parts, and just look at the overall shape really. I'm using my Artmaster brush here, which is a flat. I tend to like number 2s, number 4s. 4 is my favourite size in a brush, but 2 is really good for those little areas there that I'm painting, just for the stalks and just darkening the stems again, where I've trying to bring the colour out now by using the dark. All that hard work painting I've just done with the pinks and the whites, if I go around again and start looking at my darks again, just reiterating that, the colours start to pop. This is the power of painting. So yeah, just looking at that there. And here we have, again, just trying to make that stalk just a little bit neater. I know there that the background isn't butting up to the stalk there, so I'm just painting over that dry background from leaving the painting overnight to then do this stage. But the beauty of oil is to have this, is to let it move, let it be free flowing, which it is, and we can mix and match and make beautiful colours, and that's the beauty of it, because it just keeps moving. But also it's nice to let it dry. And here, these are coming up to the finishing touches really. I'm just looking at that deep colour within those petals there at the back. I'm adding more crimson to my mixture there. and just making those pinks a little deeper in the pockets of the flower. And again, on that one on the right hand side there. So we're going to be coming up to the end of this shortly. I'm just looking again. Ah, here we go. And here's my palette, and here's the finished picture.